The Board of Selectmen meeting for June 6th. Oh, I lost my quorum. We can do announcements. The Brookline Commission for the Arts is seeking community input to help refine the priorities for its annual grant awards. The BCA is asking citizens to complete a short survey that can be found on the front page of the town's website under latest news. So anyone interested in that should go there. There's a dedication of Riverway Park to the Honorable Michael and Kitty Dukakis on Tuesday, June 13th at 1:30. And this will be at the, just across from the Longwood MBTA station. So please join us there if your schedule allows. I know I'll be there. And I'm going to be doing this every week until the end of July, reminding everybody that there is a big construction project coming up at Commonwealth Avenue, at the BU Bridge, right on the town border, which is going to really tie traffic up for a period of starting Wednesday, June 26th, through Monday, August 14th, so it's 3 weeks. And MassDOT has issued an advisory that's, I believe there's a link to it on our website. It's interesting. 3 R's: reduce. So they're saying try to schedule your vacation during this period. Reschedule. Try to reschedule your work so you're not in that area. And remode. Shift to public transportation, walking or biking, because those are the only modes of transportation that's going to be going through there. And there's all kinds of transportation that's going to be affected, and it's going to be a giant mess. But the goal is to do the construction in 2 very concentrated spurts. The first one is this 3-week period at the end of July into the middle of August, July 26th to the 14th of August. And then there'll be a similar period next year, I guess, for the other side of the road. And it's to replace the bridge over the Mass Pike that's been there since 1965. For 50 years, we don't owe it anything at this point. Anyone else?
I wanted to thank Congressman Kennedy for coming to town last week. On Friday, Congressman Kennedy did a town hall at the Coolidge Corner Theater that I think was attended by about 300 people, and I know many of us on the board were there. And it was a spirited conversation, and our very own town administrator had the privilege of giving an introduction to him. So I think it was a timely town hall by the congressman, and I'm glad to see that so many people from Brookline were in attendance. And thank you to the Coolidge Corner Theater for hosting.
I'd like to also just add that was the culmination, really, of or at least of a period of celebration of JFK's 100th birthday. And we did not have a meeting last week, so we couldn't talk about the fact that Monday, May 29th, was a terrific day. It was very long. It started at 8 in the morning with the town commemorations of our veterans, but also specifically for Kennedy. And then there was a program at the 83 Beals, the house that John Kennedy was born, and that was very stirring. Bernard Green talked. People read from speeches. It was really, really excellent. And Joe Kennedy also spoke there. And at night there was a sock hop at this Schlunch gym organized by Jim Solomon, the fireplace. It was a lot of fun. It was a terrific way to end the day. So I want to thank everybody. Everybody in the town was terrific in terms of helping organize this, get it going. There was a lot of cooperation with a lot of different agencies in town. I know that the community fund was so helpful to us when we were doing our fundraiser on the 18th. thank them for that. And it was a very gratifying experience. A lot of attention to detail, but very gratifying. So thank you.
We should also mention on Memorial Day, we dedicated a new memorial square, which is something that we haven't done in some time. So at the intersection of Cypress Street and Brinkton Road, a new honor square dedicated to Lieutenant Walter Brookings. So stop by and, remember Lieutenant Brookings. And there's information, I think, on the town website about what he did to merit the honor square. But it dates back to World War II, just to briefly highlight it.
Okay, we have Mr. Pantalone signed up for public comment, 5 minutes.
I think it'll be less than 5 minutes. Dave Pantalone, Precinct 7 Town Meeting Member and Co-Chair of Climate Action Brookline. I know that it is not on your agenda tonight to have any debate on Babcock, but knowing that it's coming down the road, I just wanted to take the opportunity to make a comment. I realize that the Transportation Board and the Selectmen's previous decisions will be reopened, reconsidered in future discussions, and that was basically due to the safety issues raised by the fire department. And tonight, I simply want to implore you to not limit the re-examination of those issues to the safety issues related to emergency response and the firemen alone, but to also take into account the safety of bicyclists on Babcock Street. And I think that taking their accounts, their interest into account is part of the safety issue, and it's warrantable not only for the moral reason of the safety of the bicyclists, but also because the support and the promotion of bicycling in the town is part of our climate action plan. And we had warrant Article 20 passed at town meeting supporting the Paris Agreement. So any support of bicycling is important to the commitment that we have to address climate change and to honor our climate action plan. So in short, I would hope that as you reopen that issue, that you ask the Transportation Board to make sure that a separated bicycle track is part of whatever the solution is, and you find a way to make that happen. Because I think it is important to the general issue of safety, and it is also very important to our commitment to climate change going forward in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you. We don't yet have a date on that, but that's something that'll be coming up in the future. Okay, why don't we get into our calendar? We're running a little behind, I think. First item are the minutes for we have 4 sets of minutes, the 16th, the 23rd, the 24th, and 25th. What I think I'm going to do is ask that if anyone has any changes, submit them to Kate, and then I'm going to hold them so that Heather Hamilton, Selectman Hamilton, has a opportunity to review them, since she is quoted in here. She should have an opportunity to make sure the stuff is correct. Mm-hmm. So I have a few little things.
I also have, not in every one, but in a couple of them.
Okay, so we'll hold those minutes, and I'm going to suggest to Kate for the next meeting, I don't think you need to copy all those minutes for us, except for Selectman Hamilton, since the rest of us have reviewed them. Next item is an administrative item to review our public schedule, summer schedule. So, Mr. Faison?
That's Town Administrator Clark.
Ah, okay.
Item C.
Well, typically in the summertime, the board goes on an abbreviated schedule. Don't have many opportunities for that during the year, so we typically We'll meet once in July, and we'll try to meet once in August, but we always leave a
Twice in July.
twice in July and once in August, and if necessary. And so we have proposed a schedule. If that doesn't work for you, would you let me all know, and we'd like to give this out so that the departments and the citizens of the town are aware of it in advance.
I'll just note, the 22nd of August, and then we would resume our normal schedule on the 5th of September, the day after Labor Day. Do we need a vote?
If anybody objects, we should be aware, I should be aware of it.
I don't think we need a vote.
Okay,
We can
very
just-
good.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next item is a question of accepting a donation in the amount of $2,000 to the Brookline Commission for the Arts to provide funding for the Poet Laureate Program. Is this Mr. Faison?
It is. Good evening, Assistant Town Administrator Austin Faison. This was a donation from the Brookline Booksmith for $2,000 to be used for the stipend for the Poet Laureate Program. So the board needs to accept those funds, and we can continue funding this good program.
I'll just express, on behalf of the board, thanks to the Brookline Booksmith for stepping up and helping us with this, fund this program. Any questions, comments?
Everyone should go out and buy some poetry books and read poetry and give appreciation to booksmiths.
There you go. Okay, all those in favor of accepting the donation in the amount of $2,000 to the Brookline Commission of the Arts to provide funding for the Poet Laureate Program, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green. Aye. Chair votes aye. Next item is accepting two donations for $1,000 and $100 to provide funding for the purchase of American flags for the town of Brookline. Mr. Faison.
I'm here for that as well, on behalf of Mr. McGrody. So it's two separate donations. One is for $1,000 from the Merrill family. They give a yearly donation on behalf of former Selectman Mike Merrill and his wife Choo Choo. And they were instrumental in honoring the flag for years and years and have had a tremendous relationship with the town. And the second donation is from the Brookline Council on Aging, and they do a sharing tree around the holidays, and this was due to those fundraising efforts. So it's a total of $1,100 between the two donations to help supplement buying flags for the town.
Okay. And we'll express the town's thanks to the Merrill family and to the Council for the Aging.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? I'll therefore move that we accept the two donations in the amount of $1,000 and $100 to provide funding for the purchase of American flags by the town of Brookline. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green. Aye. The chair votes aye. I'm
Thank you.
terrible. Okay, question of approving the application of New England Treatment Access, doing business as Netta for change of Director of Dispensary Operations from Amanda Rositano to Lynette French.
Hello, I'm Eddie Benjamin, longtime Brookline resident and Director of Innovation at Netta. As you mentioned today, we are seeking the approval to change the Director of Operations from Amanda Rositano to Lynette French, as well as the approval of Samantha Coulter as our Brookline store
We
manager.
did that one already.
Oh, you did that one already? All right.
We did that last week.
There was a little mix-up in our original agenda, so we already did the manager, and now we wanted to have an opportunity to meet the new operations director, because I believe Ms. French was not employed prior to that.
Sure
by
thing.
Netta.
Yeah, so Amanda Rositano, as I know you all know, she
Right.
moved to our Director of Compliance, so she's focused specifically on compliance-related issues. Lynette French comes to us with many, many years' experience at Urban Outfitters, managing the managers of multiple different stores across New England, and we're very, very confident in her experience and expertise that she's bringing to the Netta team.
Good evening. Very nice to meet you. I was a longtime Brookline resident as well before I was pushed out to the suburbs with the family, but very excited to be here, so open to any questions.
So this is a little different than Urban Outfitters.
Yes.
So you're now into a regulated environment.
Yes.
And I presume you're aware of the long list of conditions that the town and NETA have agreed to, or, well, we've imposed, and
Yeah.
perhaps,
I've spent a long time studying and highlighting the state regulations as well as Brookline regulations to get myself up to par with this, so yes.
have you started, or you're starting?
I have started,
Okay.
yes.
What prompted you to change, to leave Urban Outfitters and explore this new and burgeoning industry?
So I was with Urban Outfitters for over 18 years, and
She must have started when she was in kindergarten.
yeah, I know, I'm older than I look. But really, honestly, I became a mom and a parent and had some, things that were really important to me personally, and I wanted to do something that mattered. And I really identified with this and the work they're doing with patients and really the amount of people that it's helping, and considering where the industry is. That's what, I wasn't looking in the industry, I looked at NETA specifically.
Do you have any thoughts on the Brookline Village location, anything that you're looking to change or improve upon?
I mean, change and improve upon it is hard. I'm really only like 3 months in, so I'm still really in a listening and understanding phase. Ecstatic that it's in Brookline. I remember finding out when it opened in Brookline, and I had lived on Pleasant Street and Brown Street, 8 years total, independently, 2 different tours. So I was really excited that Brookline, took part in this. In terms of change, I think NETA's done an incredible job for what I thought I would walk into as a startup. I was really blown away by all the policies and compliance they had already laid down. I think personally for me now, as regulations continue to change, that, we maintain that attention on the patient piece of it, and that's really what we're here for. That's what drew me to NETA in the first place.
I don't know if this is a question you guys can answer, but I'm sure it's a question that is at the forefront of the community, which is what are your plans as we transition into recreational marijuana?
Yeah, I'm like, I'll.
So, certainly it's on our mind, it's on the horizon with the passing of the state legislation. Right now, our focus is just on patient care, doing the best job we possibly can, serving our patient population. So at this point, we've made no plans, to really pursue that. Not to say that it's out of the question or they wouldn't come up later, but right now our focus is entirely on patient care and doing what we can, the best we can do with our current space.
Good answer. You know, too, that we passed a moratorium for,
Yeah.
what, a year? Is it 18 months?
Depends on what the Attorney General says, but up until early 2019 potentially.
Right, okay. Any other questions, concerns, comments from the board? Okay. I will move that we approve the application of New England Treatment Access doing business as NETA for a change of Director of Dispensary Operations from Amanda Rositano to Lynette French. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
Selectman Franco, I skipped you.
Okay, I'll go last.
And the chair votes aye. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. And we have a few temporary licenses. I'll do these in omnibus fashion, and they all look to be in good shape.
And the police department has reviewed all of them and sees no reason to deny any of the proposed licenses.
Yep, thank you. So I'll move that we grant a temporary wine and malt beverage sales license to the Brookline Library Foundation for a garden party to be held on Friday, June 9th, from 6:30 to 8:30 at 959 West Roxbury Parkway, which is the Putterham Branch Library. I'll also move that we grant temporary all kinds alcoholic beverage sales license to Pine Manor College for a bat mitzvah to be held on Saturday, June 10th, from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. at 400 Heath Street. I'll move that we grant a temporary wine and malt beverage sales license to Pine Manor College for a graduation party to be held on Thursday, June 15th, 2017, from 6:30 to 10 at 400 Heath Street. And I'll move that we grant 2 permits to serve alcoholic beverage on town property, non-sales all kinds, to Lars Anderson Auto Museum at 15 Newton Street for the following: a wedding reception to be held on Saturday, June 10th, from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., and an outdoor corporate event to be held on Thursday, July 13th, from 3:30 to 8:30. So all those in favor?
Cover F as well.
Did I cover F?
You wanted the olive connection?
Oh, I missed the olive connection. Sorry about that. I'll also move that we grant 2 temporary wine and malt beverage, alcoholic beverage sales licenses to the Olive Connection at 1426 Beacon Street for the following: a demonstration and tasting to be held on Thursday, June 8th, from 6 to 8 p.m., and a lecture on olive oil and wine tasting Greek night to be held on Wednesday, June 21st, 2017, from 6 to 8 p.m. That sounds interesting. So all those in favor of all these temporary licenses, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller. Aye. Selectman Green. Aye. And the chair votes aye. Okay. And a couple additional items in our miscellaneous calendar. First is the question of approving an appropriation transfer for the Health Department in the amount of $4,800. Mr. Faison.
Good evening again. Someone in my role of helping the transition of the director of the Health Department, we previously used some of the salary savings from the position being vacant in the past to cover some expenses for the new director concerning interviews and things like that. We also had agreed to cover relocation expenses. And this transfer takes salary savings, uses it for a different line, moving, and this will cover basically all of his relocation expenses.
Any questions from the board? I'll move that we approve the appropriation transfer in the Health Department in the amount of $4,800 from administration full-time permanent salaries to administration moving expenses. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller? Aye. Selectman Green? Aye. And the chair votes aye.
Thank you.
And the last item on our miscellaneous calendar is the question of appointing members to the Brookline Youth Fund Advisory Committee. How do you vote?
Well, Mr. Chairman, this is an initiative between the town and the Community Foundation. Jenny Amory is here, and you have a memo from Ms. Amory, who is recommending a slate of committee members. That's the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen to appoint. I think it's very clear what the scope of this is and the benefits to the community from this fund. I'd certainly invite Jenny to make any comments she would like, but specifically, we're asking the board to adopt the slate of appointees to the Brookline Youth Fund Committee.
Do you want to just talk a little about the fund?
Sure. Thank you. We're very pleased to have the partnership with the town, and as you know, the fund was started in 1999. We've been pleased to be able to give over $600,000 in grants over that period of time, and our partnership with the Country Club is ongoing. They do their only fundraiser to benefit the youth fund. I think we're good stewards of the fund itself. As you can see, the investment returns were over $200,000 over the years, which is added to our ability to give. And this is more of a formality related to the youth fund agreement that Mr. Kleckner has shared. So I think the details are there, and it is an advisory committee. And if there are any questions, I'm glad to answer them. I did do extensive outreach, many conversations, look to really have a slate that was as diverse as possible and that came with community input for your consideration.
Okay, and I'll just read the names. Kim Barnum, Chris Chaniel-Sulkett, Will Goldthwait, Sitzka Humphrey, Britt Stockton Lee, Joya Perugini. Okay. Ginny Voss, Pat Vonnegut. That's it. Any comments, questions from the board?
A great group of people.
Yeah,
I
really.
read the materials,
is.
yeah.
Thank you.
I know several of them, and Kim Barnum is a fabulous teacher.
Great. Thank you very much.
So was Sitzka. She's retired now, but she's on the advisory committee. Pat Vonnegut is in the school. There's a really, really good mix of people here. So
Thank you very much for recognizing
on such a
that.
big slate.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll move that we appoint the members that I named to the Brookline Youth Fund Advisory Committee. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Great, thank you. And I just wanted to confirm that I had recommended the term of June 1, 2017 to May 31st, 2018. I don't know
Okay.
if that needs to
and
be
that'll-
part of the record.
and that'll
but-
be part of the vote.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you all so
Thank
very
you.
much.
Sure. Okay. Couple of personnel items, and then we'll get to the community choice aggregation. So we're running about 25 minutes behind, to which I apologize. So the first personnel item is in the Recreation Department. Question of filling 2 lead teacher positions at the Sewell Recreation Center.
Well, I'm certainly aware of what the request is. I'm not sure.
Do we want to hold it, or do you want to?
That's your call. Austin, do you know if the department was going to be represented? I'm sorry, I don't know. So-
Okay, so I'm going to hold that. And the next item is the Fire Department personnel. It's a question of authorizing the filling of 6 positions. It's in the Fire Department, 2 deputy chiefs, 2 captains, and 2 lieutenants. Deputy Chief Flaherty, welcome.
Evening to the board. Keith Flaherty, Chief of Operations. Department kindly requests that we fill 6 vacancies in the rank of 2 for deputy chief, 2 captains, and 2 lieutenants.
Okay, and these are due to retirements.
That's correct.
To
One
be
is-
clear, they're retirements or other personnel actions.
and then the
for
effects
Deputy
of-
chief, and then rather than come back here every time one is promoted, then to backfill, we're asking for it to be done your authorization to be done in advance.
And this is all done pursuant to civil service, using
correct.
lists. and-
Yes.
I guess I have one question. The diversity of the fire department is fairly commendable at certain levels. I'm wondering if, although you're subject to civil service, I know the police department does take some proactive measures to try to attract people into the civil service process and provide some type of supports to get them through the exams, et cetera, as well as reaching out to Brookline High School students and taking other measures to try to increase the diversity of the pool of people from which you can hire employees despite civil service. what type of or measures is the fire department taking along those lines?
Currently, I don't believe that we're taking any extraordinary measures, but we can certainly consider those steps in the future.
I'd urge you to do that.
Okay? Note taken.
Yeah, I would second that.
Very good.
Okay, so I will move that we authorize the filling of the following 6 vacancies in the fire department: 2 deputy chiefs, 2 captains, and 2 lieutenants. All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco?
Aye.
Selectman Heller?
Aye.
Selectman Green?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Very good. Thank you very much.
And actually, I misstated that we were running 25 minutes behind. We're only running 10 minutes behind.
Look at that. We moved so fast.
Right. So now we're on to community choice aggregation, which is a big change to the way electricity is going to be supplied in the town of Brookline. So
That is true. I'd like to
Ms.
introduce
Morelli.
myself.
Yeah.
I'm Maria Morelli. I'm Senior Planner in the Department of Planning and Community Development. I have the good fortune of working with the Selectmen's Climate Action Committee on climate initiatives for the town of Brookline. And we are finally here to launch Brookline Green Electricity this summer. The purpose of this presentation is really to explain the program, its options. We had an opt-out letter that went out. We'll explain that. We'll describe our new supplier and also the town resources that are available to help consumers make the best decision. I really want to emphasize that we do have a really flexible program with lots of options for consumers, and we're making outreach really a priority during the opt-out period. Before I get started, I would like to introduce a few people who are with me this evening. Philip Carr is the Director of Business Development for the New England region for Good Energy. Good Energy is our aggregation consultant and energy expert. With him is Tom Michaelman, a principal with Sustainable Energy Advisors, an invaluable asset regarding renewable energy. We also have Larry Cretion and Jaime Roldan from Mass Energy. Our new supplier, Dynegy, will be purchasing renewable energy from local nonprofit Mass Energy. They are the gold standard for renewable energy. And I'd love to have Larry say a few words after I speak. I also want to acknowledge some remarkable citizens who have helped us design a program with not only representing the community, but offering the maximum range of options for the widest possible goals that consumers might have. We have Tommy Vitolo, Werner Lowy, who is the co-chair of the Selectmen's Climate Action Committee, along with Selectman Heller, David Lescoyer, Mary Dewart, and I think there's someone else, David Pantalone as well. And if I missed anyone, please raise your hand. They've been remarkable and tireless to work with, and we owe them a great deal. So we have an ingenious little program that not only offers a wide range of choices for consumers, but it also is an opportunity to make a significant impact on reducing greenhouse gas emissions. I think you're going to find that Brookline is a climate action leader in Massachusetts. A lot of communities are going to be looking up to Brookline to see how we've used this ingenious mechanism to have a significant impact on our environment without making it inaccessible for people who want to have that impact to participate. Okay, so just a bit of a snapshot. This is a town-sponsored program, and this program uses bulk purchasing to offer rate stability and renewable energy options to residences and in the Chestnut Hill residents. Chestnut Hill residents, of course, have Chestnut Hill in their address, so they weren't picked up when there was a data transfer from Eversource to Dynegy, and so they didn't get their opt-out letters. We're hoping they'll get them by mid-June. I'm not promising that, but we're working really hard. What will happen is that their opt-out period will be extended 30 days from the postmark on their letters. Okay, and also, Mr. Wyszynski is going to be sending a letter to the community also next week, and that's going to provide, again, that more personalized touch to really explain the program in detail and really to show people that it is a town-sponsored program. And of course, I'll be talking about the outreach sessions that we are going to be hosting. First, I talked about bulk purchasing. I know you know this, but for anyone who's listening and watching this via cable, community choice aggregation is actually a public policy. So bulk purchasing is similar to if you shop at Costco and you're buying things in bulk, you have a cheaper unit price. And that's really the whole idea behind this concept, actually this policy called community choice aggregation. The town has an opportunity to pool customers, residences, and businesses in order to obtain a competitive electricity supply rate. And that doesn't interfere with the utility service, so you're still going to get the quality service that you get from your current utility. This is about providing consumers with more choice. For some perspective, over 60 communities in Massachusetts and about 1,300 nationwide provide aggregation programs. Again, this state law has been around in Massachusetts for about 20 years. And as I've stated, we're actually adding a little twist to it. We were authorized by town meeting to provide 25% more renewable energy to the mix. And we can do this through an aggregation plan. This was a concept that was actually pioneered by the city of Melrose. Martha Grover is the energy manager there, who had this ingenious idea that if everyone in your customer base could buy a little bit more renewable energy, you could have this measurable impact rather than having a few extreme outliers doing something extraordinary and fantastic. And it's really been the source of a case study, and more people are picking up on it. Town of Brookline is actually expanding on that, which I'll describe later. Although there are some administrative fees, the town receives no fees for providing this service. It's a little bit of a timeline of how we got here. So back in November 2015, town meeting passed both a warrant article authorizing the town to purchase electricity on behalf of residences and businesses, and also a resolution urging the Board of Selectmen to purchase 25% more electricity through an aggregation plan. Without wasting any time, in April 2016, we conducted a procurement for an aggregation consultant with our regional planning agency, MAPC, and the Board of Selectmen selected Good Energy. In early June, about a year ago, the Board of Selectmen did hold public hearings on the draft aggregation program, and then voted later that month to submit that aggregation plan to the Department of Public Utilities. The DPU also held a public hearing on the town's aggregation plan. What they do is they do take their time. They actually took 10 months to vet our program with the primary purpose of protecting consumers' rights. So in April 2017, we finally got our approval from DPU, and in May 17, with Good Energy, we conducted a competitive bidding process for the electricity supplier. I just want to note, of the hundreds of electricity suppliers that do business in the state, only 4 really met our criteria for bidding. So it was a very rigorous process with high standards on behalf of consumers. Something that's really helpful, I have found, when I have given numerous presentations and talked to our constituents, is explaining something basic about our electric bill. And this is one, I think, one boon with this program. A lot of us, and this is something to be ashamed of, really don't know the components of our electric bill. We don't know where our electricity comes from. And one thing that's actually helpful for consumers to understand is that there's a difference between supply and delivery. You see those blue and green bars. Since deregulation about 20 years ago, consumers can shop for their own electricity suppliers. And if you've been getting inundated with solicitations from third-party suppliers, you know it's relentless. It's not easy to do the research and figure out which is the best value if you can trust that supplier. that's another advantage of this program. We're working with industry experts, and we've spent a long time doing this to actually vet the best possible supplier for the town and make sure that we were offering terms that would take advantage of the market. And that's really hard for individual consumers to do. One thing you'll see, 3 indicates what supply is. Dynegy will be supplying our electricity, but Eversource will continue to deliver the electricity. If you participate in the program, you'll see on your bill, you'll still get a bill from Eversource and still send payment to Eversource. That 5 shows where Dynegy's contact information will show up. And if you look at that bar on the left, you might want to be aware of your electricity usage. A little bit more, one more thing about that bill. If you flip the bill over, again, you'll see the distinction between supplier and delivery. Okay, so that generation charge, that 600 kilowatts could be a typical household, what you're consuming a month. And one thing I wanted to point out, I actually forgot the dollar sign here, but that's representing Eversource's new rates for the 6-month period, July 2017 through December 2017. If you're pulling your June bill, you're going to see old rates. What we've been noticing is Eversource has been changing. Their rates have been increasing every 6 months. And this, the 10.759 cents per kilowatt hour is the residential rate, and that's effective July 2017. Okay, another basic thing that I have found really helpful to establish first before I launch into the program options, where does our electricity come from? Most of it is produced by burning fossil fuels. That produces the pollution-causing greenhouse gases that contribute to climate change. Massachusetts, this is another little-known fact, but the state actually requires that 12% of all electricity supplied come from renewable resources like sun and wind power. And every year that requirement increases 1%. As you know, the town is authorized to purchase an additional 25% more from renewable resources. And this is, again, to reduce or decrease our reliance on fossil fuels. Okay, so finally, the choices we have in the program. We have, the name of the program is Brookline Green Electricity. We have 3 products in the program, and because the state actually requires an opt-out structure, we are automatically enrolling you in one of those products, and that's called Brookline Green. Recall that town meeting did authorize or did encourage the board to purchase 25% more electricity, so we're just implementing here the will of town meeting by enrolling people directly into Brookline Green. Now here's where choice comes in. If you do nothing, you'll automatically be enrolled after the 30-day opt-out period, but during this period, you can actually decide if that's right for you. You might have reasons why you want to go with Brookline Basic, which doesn't add any additional renewable energy to the state's requirement. Or you might be buying 100% renewable energy now, and you want to continue doing that. So here we have a range. Let me just describe a little bit the distinction. First of all, really the major trait amongst the 3 products is the amount of renewable energy. We do not have one product that is offering lesser service than another. It's not like gold, silver, and bronze. This is just, I like to call them small, medium, and large, just to give people an easy way to remember the amount of additional renewable energy. Okay, so that does affect the rate a little bit. Our basic rate is 10.398 cents per kilowatt hour. So right away, we're beating Eversource's new prices effective July 2017. And that could result in savings for, again, that typical household using 600 kilowatt hours a month to be about $25 a year. Might not sound like a lot, but keep in mind, we're not changing our rates every 6 months the way Eversource is. We have locked in that rate for a duration of from the July 2017 meter rate read to the December 2019 meter rate. That's about 30 months. And what that does is protects consumers against that market volatility where you would be seeing otherwise changes every 6 months on your rate. We're protecting you from that. So the intention of this product is to provide savings over the contract term. And the action you'd need to take if you want to select this is to call Dynegy directly. The other alternative product is Brookline All Green. This adds 100% additional renewable energy to the amount the state requires. And so what I'm breaking down that rate, so you see that base price of 10.398 cents. The cost for the additional renewable energy for that product is 2.8 cents. Now, for those who are buying directly from Mass Energy, remember, aggregation works for you too. So where you might be paying 3.8 cents by buying directly through Mass Energy, you're actually getting a cheaper rate through our program by 1 penny a kilowatt hour, which really does add up. Now, for the two products, Brookline Green and Brookline All Green, that provide additional renewable energy, tax deductions are available for the additional renewable energy costs. And that actually is attractive to a lot of people, which can help defray that additional cost. Just to give you some perspective about what these costs might look like, let's just use our typical household using about 600 kilowatt hours per month. For Brookline Green, that could mean about $2 more a month over Eversource's basic service. And for Brookline All Green, again, that's going to be a bit more expensive. That's about $14 more a month. But keep in mind that additional cost is defrayed by the tax deduction that is available. Now, the other option that I want to emphasize is you can keep your current electricity supplier. You do have to take an action. This is the state's mandate, not ours. And what you need to do is sign and return the opt-out form that was mailed to you, and do that within 30 days from the postmark on the opt-out notice. If you're in this program, you can opt out at any time. But keep in mind, if you opt out right away and then say, you know, I have buyer's remorse, I want to get back in, that rate cannot be guaranteed. So really do take the time to learn about the program and see what's right for you and the benefits that the program offers. Okay, so just to really sum up, what do you need to do? Don't throw away the opt-out notice. Don't ignore it. Read it. Decide what option is best for you. We have a range of consumer resources to help you make that decision. So I hope that you will call Dynegy, visit our website, brooklinegreen.com, call the planning department, and make these resources available to you to help guide you. When you select your option, have your Eversource account number available. To make your selection for Brookline Green, the 25%, you do nothing. You'll be automatically enrolled. For one of the two options, Brookline Basic or Brookline All Green, you call Dynegy directly at the number given. And then to opt out of the program's 3 products altogether, again, you sign and return the opt-out form. So I just want to capture all of the benefits because this really is a really rich program. Again, you have a choice of 3 products. It allows consumers to select the best plan to meet their needs. Prices are fixed for 30 months, protecting consumers from volatility. For our Chestnut Hill residents, that's going to be 29 months, ending on the same date. They'll just get started about a little bit later. Again, there is no change in the quality of electricity or customer service. If you're used to budget billing, which is to equalize your payments every month, you will retain that. In addition, if you are a budget plan or low-income delivery customer, you get to retain those benefits as well. You do not need to opt out to retain these benefits. Federal tax deductions are available for the additional renewable energy purchased. You can opt out at any time. There are no termination fees. Keep in mind, we've done a lot of heavy lifting with our experts. This is a rigorously vetted supplier, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And it's traditional the traditional electricity is generated locally. Okay, so a lot of people see, oh, this is, maybe a Midwest company. They have local roots. In order to actually serve our area, they actually have power plants in New England. So it's local. We're not taking jobs away from Massachusetts workers, and it's mostly natural gas. We rely very little on coal in the New England region. And the other thing is that Dynegy will be purchasing that renewable energy, again, from the gold standard, Mass Energy. Not all renewable energy certificates are equal. I have talked to customers, they have solar panels, they've got 100% renewable energy, but they don't know where that renewable energy is generated. Turns out it's coming from Oregon or Texas, which, as Larry can explain much better than I can, is actually not reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. So this is a guarantee that it's generated locally, and we're adding new renewable energy to our power grid. Okay, so why is this so important? Why is Brookline a climate action leader? Electricity consumption is the largest source of pollution-causing carbon emissions. And if the community participates in our standard product, Brookline Green, the 25%, you're going to help Brookline displace about 34 million pounds of carbon dioxide emissions annually. And that's the equivalent, just to give it some concrete perspective, of running almost 12 wind turbines. Okay, so that's the ingenious part of the program. If you think about it, if you're spending just $2 more a month, and that's tax deductible, it's hard to believe that you can have that level of impact nationwide of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Some of the people we've talked to highly praise the program. Frank Caro, who is, as you know, the director of the Brookline Community Aging Network and a member of the advisory committee, he spoke to the very fact, getting all of these solicitations. I mean, he's working with our senior citizens, and this is one of their complaints. I, too, am working really at the front line at customer service. I will have senior citizens come in clutching bills, not just from one supplier. They've signed up for service they don't need, and they didn't understand what they were getting into, and they were making that decision alone. So this is a real problem that we are addressing by offering this service. Another, again, we think of this being maybe just a little bit more money, but you're able to do something environmentally sound and impactful, and it's really in a budget-conscious way. David Lashinsky is a prime example of this. He's the owner of Eureka Puzzles, and he's also the president of the Coolidge Corner Merchants Association. So it's a small business owner. So he's not able to install solar panels on his house, but he feels the $2 more a month is something he can afford, and he loves the fact that it is tax deductible. So this is, again, a very accessible way to do more, to buy more renewable electricity. One thing that I'm really proud of is that our goal was to design this to be as inclusive as possible. We wanted low-income residents, our seniors, small businesses to have the opportunity, if they wanted to have an opportunity for monthly savings and protections from market volatility, we're not leaving them out. So even though there is this goal of pushing the envelope a little bit, nobody's really left out. There's room for everyone in this program. And I think the one thing that you really need to consider in terms of perspective, it is a wonderful thing that the state does have this renewable portfolio standard that 12% of all electricity purchased come from renewable resources. But at that rate, it is not enough. And I just want to point to Dr. Vitolo's comment that at that rate, we're not going to meet the state's goal of reducing greenhouse gases by 80% by the year 2050. And that's why Brookline is going to get a lot of attention for the work they're doing with this 25% option. A little bit about Dynegy. They're one of the nation's largest power companies. They are a financially sound Fortune 200 company. Again, they're generating electricity from New England-based power plants. The majority is from natural gas. They have more aggregation accounts nationwide than other suppliers. And they're also the electricity supplier for the recently launched aggregation programs in Arlington, Somerville, Sudbury, and Winchester. About Mass Energy, again, the gold standard, they are the renewable energy supplier that Dynegy is purchasing that energy from. They're a nonprofit. And again, they have been really a trusted voice for consumers and for both consumers and the environment on local, state, and national energy issues. And they're going to be supplying Massachusetts Class 1 renewable energy certificates, again, guaranteed to add new renewable energy to our power grid. A few of our resources, certainly this information session, the Selectmen's Climate Action Committee is hosting another information session next week on Monday at 6:30 in this room, and it will be televised. The town's website, brooklinegreen.com, has a lot of information, frequently asked questions that'll guide you. Mr. Wyszynski is sending out a letter to the community next week. We have information brochures. We're going to put out PSAs on our local cable, brooklineinteractive.org. And as you can see, we are giving a lot of presentations to community groups. So we're not waiting for you to come to us. We're actually getting on your agenda. And this is a list of meetings that we are giving. I'm actually giving about 8 presentations in the next 2 weeks. And this is something we're really passionate about. We want everyone to feel that they can make use of this really rich, flexible program. And that's why we're happy to come out to you. If you are listening to this, please contact me in the planning department so we can arrange to have a presentation at your, maybe it's at your condo or your neighborhood group, your community group. Again, to contact us, you can consult our brooklinegreen.com. You can get a hold of me through the planning department at the numbers and emails above. Dynegy is the electricity supplier, and you can call them if you have any questions about the opt-out period or the different programs and what they offer. And of course, to select one of the alternative products in our program. And Eversource remains the utility company. You continue to call them with billing issues and emergency issues. So any questions before I turn it over to Larry?
For customers who are on net metering, which
Yeah, this won't affect them. They'll still be able to do that.
okay.
So obviously, you'd probably end up selecting the basic program, which is comparable to the Eversource program, since you're already getting your electricity from your solar panels. So,
Right.
You don't need electricity from Mass Energy Renewable because you're already getting your own. So for those people with solar panels, they can sign up for the basic program, which is comparable to Eversource's program, except that they're going to save, beginning in July, going to save $2 a month.
Right.
So.
Yep. So in short, you can still participate in the program.
Yeah, but why would I go down?
Yeah, I just wanted to point.
Yeah, really.
Sorry, I just wanted to point out, I had a family come in, they have solar panels, and they purchase 100% renewable. So the choice is yours about where you want the energy you use that the solar panels don't supply. If you want it to come from, again, it's your choice. If you want it
Right.
to come from renewable,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be basic. It's really, where do you want your electricity to come from?
Right, okay. Any questions from the board? So,
All right. So Mr. Cretion, and
Thank you very much for having me. I'm Larry Cretion, Executive Director of the Massachusetts Energy Consumers Alliance. We are a fairly local nonprofit. Our office is in Jamaica Plain, a couple miles away. John Rodon is with me. She's actually even more local. She lives in Brookline and rode her bike here. And she is actually the person in charge of helping me secure the supply to serve your needs. So we're kind of proud of that. Our organization is now 35 years old, and we're here to make energy more affordable and environmentally sustainable. And we just couldn't be more thrilled with the leadership that you've taken here. We were so happy to work with Good Energy to do the program in Melrose, and Dedham went first. Now there's a number of communities who are doing that, and they've kind of targeted that 5% renewable energy above that required by state law, but Brookline is 25%. And that's amazing. To put it in context, and Tommy mentioned it in his comments, Massachusetts law, it's called the Renewable Portfolio Standard, requires National Grid and Eversource and competitive power suppliers to have increasing amounts of energy coming in the form of renewables. But in Class 1, we're talking wind, solar power, anaerobic digestion, landfill gas, and certain qualifying hydro facilities. And it goes up 1% per year. And at that rate, we'll never get to Paris. And so we're advocating for an increase by law to go at least 2 or 3% in order to get to the 80% by 2050. So to put it in a nutshell, people in Brookline are going to be 25 years ahead of state law, and that's something to be very proud of. And that's really the main purpose of this. This is a voluntary contribution that people are making. They're given the opt-out opportunity. And so your community is making a choice, like so many individuals have made the choice. We have over 250, I think it's 260 people in Brookline are choosing to buy 100% renewable energy from Mass Energy. And because Eversource hasn't allowed us to accommodate it on their electricity bill, they're actually having it done on their credit card. And we think that's incredibly commendable. It puts renewable energy onto the grid nonetheless. This is just so much simpler and more elegant and more effective when we can move the entire community to 25% at least, or maybe 100%. So given the numbers, we don't know exactly until people start getting into the program, but we're estimating that this is going to cause the purchase of 11 or 12 or more, the production equivalent to 11 or 12 wind turbines, as Marie indicated. That's a pretty significant decision by the community. So over the many years, we build up a portfolio. We buy renewable energy wholesale, and we sell it retail to consumers who want to be green. So we have long-term contracts with projects in Gloucester, Scituate, Plymouth, Worcester, Charlemont in western Massachusetts, Hull, both wind turbines, Ipswich, Coventry, Rhode Island. We're focused on projects that change the character of the New England power grid. All 6 New England states feed into the same grid, and so right now the power serving Brookline could come from a fossil plant or a wind plant in any one of the 6 states, and so we're focused on trying to change that character. So we're going to buy as close to Brookline as we possibly can. We're going to see what the market allows in that sense. We may have to buy from Maine or New Hampshire, but we're really focused every day. We're talking to generators about buying their renewable energy to meet the needs. And the point is, when all these other communities try to follow suit, that just makes us go out and shop for more. And that's really the hokey pokey, as I put it. That's what it's all about, which is more people demand renewable energy, more projects will be built. And so it's good news if we end up having to scurry to find more supply, right? That means it's sending a signal to the marketplace for people to put up more wind turbines and solar panels, and to collect more manure from cows so they can make anaerobic digestion and all that kind of good stuff. So we're very happy to be working with you, and we hope this is the beginning of a long-term change in the way that power is bought and sold in Massachusetts. I can answer any questions.
Are you buying from the new Block Island wind farm?
Not yet. Honestly, that is a fabulous project. National Grid is kind of purchased from that, and that's a great project for New England. It's actually a little bit more expensive than what we will be bringing to Brookline when you go offshore. But offshore wind is necessary to meet our climate goals, and so it could come a day when, and that could be part of the mix. Offshore wind, Massachusetts or Rhode Island, could be part of the mix in Brookline. But certainly, another way of looking at it is we play keep away. When we buy from all the projects that I just listed that we do, That means that Eversource, National Grid, and other suppliers will have to go find other sources, so maybe they will bring more offshore wind into the mix as well. So essentially what you're doing is you're taking state law and you're going beyond, above and beyond the call of duty, and that requires more output from projects all over the place.
Are there other communities who've structured it the way we have 25 as kind of the default and then with a 100 option?
The model that we have gone with is a number of communities Good Energy represents, such as Somerville and Arlington, Winchester, and Sudbury, in addition to Melrose and Dedham, they're doing 5%.
Wow.
And now there are a number of communities who are looking at it. Gloucester, I think, will be there, and many other communities. I frequently go out to places like Northampton and Amherst where they're looking at it. But usually we're talking at least 5%. But when people are told Brookline's doing 25%, then they begin to think bigger numbers. So you may have some people following you, and I hope they do. But you can be proud of where you are.
Wow. So that's a headline.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow.
let me just say that Brookline, we followed the town meeting resolution, which was co-authored by Tommy Vitolo and Carol Oldham in November of 2015, which called for the 25% program. And the Climate Action Committee subcommittee looked at it and said, well, there are a number of people in Brookline who want to purchase 100%. And so we put that option into the program. And then there are a number of people who feel that they need to stay with the small, as Maria calls it, I call it the little, which is comparable to Eversource, but we can save them money by doing the basic plan. So we have something for everyone in the marketplace, and I think that that's a very important part of the program. And our 25% and our 100% options are unique.
Yeah, and we enjoy working with Climate Action Brookline and Mothers Out Front and others who are trying to explain to people about that 100% option. That doesn't come naturally, and that comes with some encouragement and prodding, and we're getting there. And so that maybe we'll go for 13 or 14 wind turbines with that kind of effort.
It just, for those who don't know, off the shore of Block Island is the first wind farm on the east coast of the United States, and folks down there are very excited. I actually have property that can see that, and it's quite a beautiful site.
That's good to hear. That's wasn't the case with the Cape Wind project. And
Yeah. Well. Any other questions?
Well, I'd like to just
Yeah.
follow up, because first of all, I want to thank Larry and Maria for this presentation. I also want to thank Maria for all of the hard work she's done. Excuse me. This has been many, many months of planning and talking and working through the bugs and working with Good Energy and presenting to the state. It's been a long process, but I think we've come out with an excellent program that has 3 different products. Again, there are a couple of other people on the subcommittee, of the aggregation subcommittee, who aren't here. That's Kathleen Scanlon and Ed Leckler from Town Meeting Member Precinct 8 also came to a number of meetings and was very helpful.
David Lescoyer.
David Lescoyer.
Oh, he's here. Oh, okay.
He's on the,
Right.
yes, he was on the committee, and Werner was the chair, with David and Kathleen and Alan Leviton, who's not, I don't think Alan's here either. So I want to thank them for all their hard work. I would like to reiterate, because this has been somewhat of an issue on email chatter, And that is to reiterate what Maria said about the opt-out period. The opt-out period is a state-created consumer protection item, essentially. You have 30 days to opt out if you don't like the program. If you do like the program, you can opt up or opt down, but you could also opt out. The negative about opting out is that you do lose the rate stability that you would get if you enter our program, and you would not be able to capture the savings. You're not guaranteed that if you decided you made a mistake and you had buyer's remorse, then you couldn't come back into the program with a guarantee of the lower rate that everyone else is enjoying. So I think it's very important to think about that if you're going to opt out. And there is no penalty for opting out in the future, so if you want to try it and see whether it suits you, that may be your best recourse, because you can opt out with no penalty at all at a later date. Again, I think this is a terrific program. I think we are setting a gold standard along with Mass Energy. And I'm very pleased that we're going to add to our capability of fighting carbon emissions from the town of Brookline. And that's what this program was originally designed to do.
Selectman Green.
I'd like to make an observation about the way the program's structured, and I compliment you for the structure. Unfortunately, in this country, there's a tendency to try to characterize climate interests and climate needs as hostile to the financial interest of working people and many other people in this country. I think one thing that this structure does is to recognize that maybe some people would want to opt out of the additional costs, small though it may be, of the Brookline Green or the Brookline All Green program, and to maintain, in the Brookline Basic, where they will actually earn some savings over whatever source currently charges. I mean, that's a little thing, and those of us concerned about climate issues, would not see, an additional 0.7 cents as that significant. But from the standpoint of how the whole energy climate argument is presented in this country, I think it's always important to make sure that we are aware of the fact that 0.7% for some people, can be a significant amount of money, and giving them an opportunity to, not pay that while still benefiting from the state renewable energy amount, I think is good politically, and long term, what's good politically is good from the standpoint of climate, because the solution to the climate issue is not the logic of it, but rather the politics of it, in my opinion. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for that great presentation.
Yeah. Okay. Next item is Richard Sagan and the members of the Sister City Committee will appear to update the board on the Sister City activities. Brookline Kesawaki Sister City Project.
Thank you very much for including us on your agenda tonight. And I would say it made me proud listening to, being part of the Brookline community, listening to the work that we're doing, the pioneering work and leadership work in terms of setting a gold standard. And hopefully in some small way the Sister City Project is contributing to a pioneering work in terms of a community like ours collaborating with a community in another very different part of the world. So this year is a very special year. We are celebrating the 30th anniversary of the Sister City Project. Our collaboration with the Ketchiwackee community has been across the board, but primarily focused on the areas of healthcare, education, and housing. And apart from working in those areas, I think one very, very special thing we oftentimes overlook in thinking about the Sister City project is the human interaction, the human exchanges, the people-to-people nature of our project. And more than 250 Brookline residents have visited Ketchiwackee over the years. And we've also had the privilege of inviting Ketchiwackee residents to meet with us, to meet with you, town officials, meet with town offices, visit the schools, faith-based organizations, and others. And I think that's a wonderful component of our program. Sister City Week this year is going to be in October, and we're planning a number of, I think, very, very special programs. And if there's time, maybe we can talk for a few minutes about them. But first, I'd like to introduce three of our Sister City board members who were in Ketchiwackee just last week. Two of them are here tonight, and they've just returned from Ketchiwackee. Peter Moyer is the chair of our Health and Medical Committee, and Carol Pinheiro is another board member who's led our teacher training and educational efforts in the town of Ketchiwackee. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to invite Peter and Carol to say a few words about the summer projects and some of our more recent activities. Peter?
Good evening. I'll be relatively quick. My name is Peter Moyer. I'm an emergency physician, and as Richard said, I'm head of the medical committee of the Sister City. I'm going to talk about two projects, one of which is ongoing for about a year. It's around water. I think some of you have even are vaguely aware of it. We're doing a couple things with the town of Ketchawakkee's water. They have a system, which is a good system, of deep wells, about 7 of them, which service the majority of the town. So we have looked at that infrastructure, the wells, the pumps in the wells, the tanks where they store the water, the tubing which goes out to the individual homes. We've looked at that ourselves, and now a more formal survey of that infrastructure is being carried out by the Occupational Environmental Health Wing of the local university. So that's good. And they are going to, it's literally happening as we speak. And following that, they're going to take samples of water from the tank and various steps along the tubing to the last house on the line. They're going to test for infectious agents, bacteria. I don't know if you know the disease, but it's actually not that uncommon in the tropic. Leptospirosis, which interestingly causes a kidney disease, very similar to the one they suffer. So looking for infectious agents, they're looking for heavy metals. The soil there is unusual soil, and there are 7 big volcanoes in Nicaragua alone, so that gives a particular aspect to it. And they are looking for agrochemicals, pesticides, herbicides. That's what a lot of the local people think is the cause of their kidney disease. It may well be, it's not so easy to detect, but we have an excellent lab which is going to look at all of this. So literally by the end of this summer, they should have done those tests and have results for the town, which is a great boon for the town because people along the way have been encouraging hydration, meanwhile, because they have kidney disease. Meanwhile, if you hydrate and you're thinking the water is the source of the problem, it's a bit of a double bind. So this would be, I think, a great service to the town, both for kidney disease and diarrhea and other sources. So I'm happy that we're working with this, went with this, Betsy Riley, who is head of quality of water for the MWRA, very important, wonderful woman. She worked in the Peace Corps first, so she really is very attuned to that kind of community. We work with Rotary on this. We're trying our best. I think the chances are decent, us getting significant funding from them, and a lot of the funding came from us. And as I said, we're working with a local university. This town, Ketchiwackee, is about a half an hour from the second biggest city in the country, and it's also the academic center, so they have a good medical school, good labs, etc. So that's one thing, water. Oh, I should add one last group working with this. They have, you'd all be impressed with this. I was very impressed with it. They have local community activists in charge of their water. So if you're in a given neighborhood, you might be the president, the secretary, the treasurer of their what they call their CAPS. It's in charge of potable water and sanitation, and they're very organized. But they're also somewhat isolated, very limited in their resources. And we're going to help get another NGO to train them with a nationally certified course in terms of water maintenance. So that's useful. Switching subjects. Second thing I want to talk about is every year, at least a couple of us faculty. This year's Carol, myself, and a woman, Kaya Vanderzeel, a retired OBG in town, all went for a week with 6 students, 4 public health, 1 medical, and the last wasn't a student. She's a nurse at Children's Hospital, to do a project around sexual knowledge amongst adolescents. It's relevant because they have a lot of precocious pregnancy, adolescent pregnancy. I think about half their pregnancies occur before age 20, and half of those are unwanted. And they have as well, again, related to sexual knowledge, they have a lot of a particular sexually transmitted disease called HPV. You may or may not know it, but it causes venereal warts, which are the least of the problems. The real problem is cervical cancer, and they have one of the highest cervical cancer rates in the world. So and cervical cancer is, once it gets going, it's a terrible disease, particularly for a young woman who's going to have her entire midsection taken out. So, at any rate, it's important to them, both the knowledge about safety and the knowledge of who you are when you're ready for sex. Sex is a good thing. They have a whole spiel on this. Sex is a good thing, but you better be ready for it and make it part of family planning and not just let it happen. Or, for that matter, have it forced upon you. So we're doing that. It should be excellent. We're getting better at this. We've done it several years, but this is for the first time in concert again with a local university. The dean, at the last minute, after much prodding, is helping us. The dean is providing several students to work with our students, which is ideal. The dean is providing tablets, which of course adolescents like, so they can fill these things out anonymously. So I'm very happy with that, and we're hooked up with literally the national expert in adolescent sexuality. I'm hoping he comes here, and I'm hoping you all have a chance to listen to him. His name is William Ugarte. He's 38, a rising star, a tremendous help to all of us. So I'm very happy about that connection. I think it's a useful tool, and I'm happy we're doing it. I think I'll quit talking. Thank you very much, though. I'm glad. Nice to see you all, and you should know the people there very much appreciate. This is one last quick story. So I'm walking down the street. They appreciate our sister city relationship. One guy came up to me. He could see I was a gringo, and he says to me, "Did you know that Brookline?" Didn't know it was from Brookline. Brookline gave an ambulance. I was thinking, really? So, at any rate, yes, they very much appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Carol Pinheiro, and I teach English at Boston University, and I've been going for about the past 6 years to Quetzalhuaque to do training for the English teachers. I've looked for education interns to go down and help the English teachers in their classes. Unfortunately, this year we didn't get one, but anyway, I went around and saw all of them. And what we did last year during our Sister City Week, which this year is from October 15th to the 21st, we invite some guests from there, and they come to see our beautiful city of Brookline, our library, this area which they just gawk at. It's so beautiful and well-made compared to what they have there. And last year we invited 4 English teachers and the director of the health center, and we took them around to some of the elementary schools here, Brookline High School. I took them to BU. They saw Spanish classes and English classes, and they were thoroughly thrilled and learned some techniques and, you know, wished that they could have some more. So this year, we have decided to invite them back again for almost a month at Brookline High School. And this is in conjunction with the headmaster, and maybe Richard will say something more about that, or perhaps it hasn't all been planned out perfectly enough to announce it. But we're hoping to have them here for the month of October to assist the Spanish teachers in the classroom, help them make up lessons, observe their techniques to be able to take them back to their English classes in Quetzalhuaque. And they're thrilled with this idea. They still have to get permission, and they still have to find substitutes, but we're hopeful that this plan will go forth as planned. So that's my role. I'm involved with those English teachers, and I'm hoping they can come back to Brookline and improve their teaching skills and help the Brookline teachers as well. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Carol. And Peter, so I know you have a proclamation, and I don't know if you'd like me to go through some of the points.
Yeah, why not?
If you'd like to go through it. Should I?
Yeah.
Okay. So the proclamation is really a summary of some of the things that we've done over the 30 years of our relationship. I guess rather than hit upon all of these, let me just mention a few of some of our more recent activities that we collaborated with the Quetzalcoatl community in the first 3 computer classrooms, one in each of the high schools. This was their request, and it's been a partnership with the Ministry of Education in Quetzalcoatl, with the mayor's office, and with the Sister City Project. We have provided probably more than $150,000 in healthcare equipment and supplies over the years. We provide ongoing support for the delivery of primary care and other services. We helped build a library in Quetzalcoatl. We're the prime movers in collaboration with the community in building a library, and we continue to support the library in Quetzalcoatl, procurement of books, as well as a mobile library program. We provide resources to support an ongoing art program, and some of you may have seen the artwork has been on sale at different points along the way, including on showing in Coolidge Corner. We've also built a primary school a number of years ago. We helped build the primary care center, the main community health center in Quetzalcoatl, and they now have 2 satellite centers, and we provide ongoing support for the delivery of healthcare services. We've also been involved under Peter's leadership and leadership of our former healthcare chair, Peter Stringham, Dr. Peter Stringham. We've been involved in the efforts to combat chronic kidney disease. We've been involved in the effort to combat Zika and chikungunya. And this is, I believe, Peter or someone correct me if I'm wrong, I believe this is the 10th summer health project that we've had with graduate students in public health primarily, but also including some medical students visiting Quetzalcoatl and working on particular projects. They've ranged from, Peter mentioned the projects related to water and to teenage pregnancy prevention. We've also been involved in infection control issues. We've been involved, the students have been involved in chronic kidney disease follow-up and tracking. So they've been involved in numbers of different issues. Peter mentioned already, which is something that we're very proud of, this initiative that's been in the works for numbers of years related to clean and safe water. We've had a catch-22 situation for numbers of years because the thinking is that dehydration may contribute to the epidemic of chronic kidney disease, which this community suffers. At the same time, there's been a reluctance to encourage drinking of water because of concerns about water safety, the quality of the water. And through this effort that we've launched in collaboration with the medical school, as Peter mentioned, and another nonprofit and the town, we hope to address the issue of drinking water. Peter just returned, but Peter was also there, along with a number of us, Lois Statlander, another board member, Sarah Johnson, and I were there in February, along with, and Peter mentioned, we have to thank you, or actually we have to specifically thank Mel Kleckner for introducing us to Betsy Riley. Betsy Riley is the Director of Environmental Quality for the MWRA. He introduced us to her. She's been involved with our efforts related to clean water, and she traveled at her own expense in February to Quetzalcoatl, and she and Peter and another scientist from a chemical engineer from out of state with an expertise in water, along with Sarah Johnson. 5 of us are returning in August to continue working on this project. So that's very, very exciting, and it's a collaboration with the university, a nonprofit in Leon, and the Ministry of Health. So it's an exciting initiative. As far as Sister City Week is concerned, we've got some special programs planned. Last year we had the first of what I hope will be a continuing programs of poetry, celebrating Latin American poetry and American poetry. And Nicaragua is very different in some respects than the United States, in that poetry is a part of everyday life. And Lois kicked off last year a special program there was a full house of celebrating. That was our kickoff event for Sister City Week, as it will be this year, celebrating Latin American and American poetry. The second event in Sister City Week is going to be Science on Screen at the Coolidge Corner Theater. It's a collaboration with the Coolidge Corner Theater, and it's going to be about insect-borne illnesses, which is a very relevant issue for the Quetzalcoatl community, as we now learn it is for us in the United States as well. The third event of the week is going to be a special forum on water, which is going to be a collaboration with the Metropolitan Waterworks Museum. And Betsy Riley, who gave a 10-minute presentation at the Coolidge Corner Theater last year, is going to be making a more complete report on some of our work and in some of the issues in terms of water quality. And then, of course, we're going to be having a 30th anniversary celebration and fundraiser. We are inviting back Maxine Shaw, who's a longtime Brookline resident and the teacher who was behind the creation or the inspiring person in terms of establishing the Sister City relationship. Carol alluded to the fact we're also inviting 4 teachers for the month. We don't know if that's all going to work out, but we're hoping it will. There's been really nice support from the schools, from the headmaster at Brookline High School and the superintendent. And we are also inviting the lead for the lab at the university to join us, and will give us another perspective about water in a developing country. So it all should be very good. We're hoping that you will join us in celebrating the 30th anniversary and attending some of these events, if at all possible.
Okay. Wow. And you didn't leave me anything to say. Right. So I will move that we adopt the proclamation, which resolves that we, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Brookline, do hereby designate the week of October 15th to 21st as Brookline Sister City Week, and congratulate the Brookline Quetzalcoatl Sister City project for 30 years of partnership between our 2 communities. And so all those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Now, it's funny, when I joined this board, actually it took me a couple of years to actually pronounce Quetzalcoatl. So now that Selectman Daly is gone, she would whisper in my ear every time. So now I've got it down. So thank you for all you guys are doing. This has been a wonderful project. I've enjoyed getting to know the project, joining you in some of your events, and I enjoy the dinners that we've had with the visiting folks from Quetzalcoatl. So I hope we can do that this year. I think last year it didn't work out for, if I
2 years
recall.
ago.
2 years. Okay. One of the years it didn't work out, but.
We will try to make it work this year, and thank you all very, very much. Really,
Okay.
It's been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Last item on our agenda is a public hearing on the request of National Grid for a waiver of the noise bylaw in connection with a reliability project of the company's gas infrastructure on Beacon Street in Coolidge Corner. I know this has been a project that's been going on for a while, and it's generated a fair amount of complaints, including a lot of Twitter activity. I'm not a Twitter kind of guy, but every now and then I do check Twitter, and then I think the night you guys were making a lot of noise over there, I had like people tweeting at me. I still don't know what to do with those tweets. So, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Sure. So, my name is John Bacchus, Manager of Community Customer Relations for National Grid. And
my name is Nick Pepe. I'm the construction supervisor for the Brookline and Brighton areas.
Okay. So tell us what's going on and what you're asking of us.
all right, so back at the February 14th Selectmen's meeting, I approached the board for a noise variance hearing that got approved. With that approval, we hoped that we would get more work done in that time frame. Due to a couple of circumstances, one being hoping to start March 1st. We were unable to start March 1st, weather permitting and permit permitting, until the third week in March. So we broke ground right around the 23rd of March, and since then we've been able to work, but again, the weather has not cooperated the best. And also, some of the restrictions we've had with permits and noises when it came down to maybe shutting down a little bit earlier than we expected with some of our equipment. And then also, we got shut down a couple of nights for also, again, the noise disturbances with some complaints. So besides for that, there's also been a few other roadblocks that we've had, which the asphalt out on Beacon Street has been extremely thick, which has slowed us down to a lot of hand digging in some, jackhammering or vacuum excavating. So tonight we're here to ask for an extension on the noise variance with the same restrictions that we have in place for the previous one, and extend it until September 1st.
September 1st?
Correct. Yeah. So we have a couple
I haven't gotten a lot of those tweets, but I'm wondering whether in particular, the jackhammering is the greatest annoyance.
So
Is that the case?
Yeah, so we received a complaint from one resident at night. The resident was having trouble sleeping at night, and et cetera, which we understood, and we were able to move out of that area. The jackhammering is necessary in certain areas. Not that we want to use the jackhammers, but it is necessity to break through parts of the ground. Sometimes we run into concrete under the asphalt. There's been some areas where there's been some cobblestones. But surprisingly enough, today I got a phone call from a gentleman that lived at the corner of Winchester. He lived on the 9th floor, and he called, and he wanted to actually email the Board of Selectmen, and he says, before I do, I thought I'd reach out to you. And his complaint was, and we talked about this at that last meeting back in February, was the backup alarms. And I explained to him the situation about the backup alarms. He says, everything else kind of gets muffled. He says, but that backup alarm, and again, I knew that would probably be the number one. And then the number two is the jackhammer. The jackhammer doesn't run continuously all night. It's unfortunate that we do have a jackhammer out there. So the jackhammer has been restricted to, what time do we stop the jackhammer now? Is it 10?
9 p.m.
9 p.m. we stop the jackhammer, and then the vacuum excavator is at 10?
And
saw cutting is also at 10 p.m. So our restrictions are really strict. So that's why
if I recall, the complaints were later than those times.
Right, so what happened was after we got the complaints, we revisited it with the DPW, And we looked at it and we came up with, okay, after 9 and 10 o'clock, that's it. So since then, I don't believe we've received too many complaints, or I try to watch some of your Twitter stuff. There's a lot of tweeting going on out there. So I try to keep up with your newspaper and the Twitters and stuff like that. Now, I haven't seen too much, and Nick would be able to let me know more if there's been any more major complaints. Again, pretty much everybody has my phone number or email address. And I have received a couple of phone calls, and I have received a couple of emails, and we've been able to resolve the situation.
How did we end up with jackhammers to begin with? I remember at our last meeting, you said there was going to be saw cutting and no
I
jackhammers.
did. So I reviewed those notes as well, because in the notes it said that I said there would be no jackhammering, and just for my own defense, I went back and watched the video also. And in between the time of 42 minutes and 15 seconds and 45 minutes, I indicated that there would be jackhammering to a minimum. So, and again, the jackhammering comes up when we run into a roadblock like extensive concrete, asphalt, or possibly cobblestone, stuff like that. So I took that very personal. There's one thing I do is I try to tell everybody straight out and forward how it's going to be. We do not want to use jackhammers. It's not something that we use that much in practice anymore. We saw cut it. But if we can't get through everything, the next alternative is the jackhammer. And I did indicate that at that meeting. So I understand. I read those minutes and I took that personal. I said, geez, I could have sworn I mentioned that the jackhammer could be used. So that's why we ended up using the jackhammer.
So what happens if we don't give you the waiver? What's the alternative? How would you do the
So
work?
right now, that we would have to go for a permit for during the day, and the project is just probably going to go on through probably this rest of the remaining season, this season, and next season as well. And then we don't want to deal with the complaints from the businesses that are in the area on top of the residents as well, and also the traffic that it's going to cause. And that's if we get the permit. But right now, if we don't work on this pipe, the integrity of the pipe, the reason why we're replacing it is the integrity of the pipe. It's from the early 1900s. It's about 100 years old or more. It's brittle. It's getting old. It's getting
Is this the big cast iron thing?
Yeah. So we're replacing it with, new plastic pipe. And, when you hear of a gas leak, it's usually due to old pipe. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to replace the existing gas mains that are in there with new gas mains, new gas services. So that would be, we tried to do a portion of the project last year, and we got some of the footage in, and it just wasn't working. And that was where now the pipe jogs out to the road a little bit more. We would rather be out there during the day, but it's just, from construction, I come from the construction field. I bring along Nick with me he's the supervisor. And I believe also that the DPW has also agreed that during the daytime, I says, can we work during the day? Well, we got knocked off for the last couple of weeks. And I said, can we work during the day? And it's just, you're not going to get much pipe in the ground. And then you're going to have the road plates more than you have now out there. Because what you're going to do is you're going to dig 20 feet, maybe 50 feet, you're going to road plate it. Then the next day you're going to come back and maybe do another 20 feet. And you're going to be very minimal amount of pipe.
Tell you, one pity of this whole thing is we redid Beacon Street how many years ago?
Yeah.
10
years.
So that was
8 to
about
10.
9-10 years ago, from my understanding, and at the time, the integrity of that pipe, was strong as we looked at it. Now our surveys and everything tells us that pipe needs to be replaced. And also, we're in a situation now where we're mandated by the government to replace X amount of pipe within 20 years. So we're under a lot of pressure to get this pipe out of the ground. We're mandated to get rid of some of this pipe. And to be able to get rid of that in a 20-year period is a challenge itself.
So when the project is over, what's the street going to look like?
So I'll let Nick, I'm not sure on the exact, I believe it's a temporary patch for now, and then it's going to be a grinding inlay. I'm not exactly sure. Grinding inlay is a mill and overlay as well.
Curb to curb, or?
No, not curb to curb. I'm not sure of the width. Do you know?
No, I mean, a typical width for ourselves is, so for a 12-foot trench, usually at a maximum is probably about 2 feet wide, except for the locations where we have our tie-ins, our connection points to existing facilities. So with our 2-foot trench, we usually bring in a contractor that gets a milling machine that goes about 4 feet wide. So they'll do, you'll have about a foot of overlap on each side of the trench. And then we'll try to use that same estimate on the locations where the trench is wider, try to go about a foot wider. And depending on the locations where the trench does get wider, each situation can be unique to, well, if we're only a foot or 18 inches away from the curb, there's no sense in leaving that. We'll go all the way to the curb. So it's basically kind of what's in the best interest and also the final integrity we're going to be leaving with the asphalt.
Mm-hmm. So the biggest complaints, I presume, are after a certain time using the very loudest equipment. So that would be the jackhammers and the
saw, the backup alarms, but there's absolutely nothing we can do about the backup alarms.
Those are
We're mandated to have
safety.
those as safety.
Mandated.
Yeah.
So,
I was even asked if we could put like a muffler on. We can't.
so with respect to the jackhammers and the saws, is there a time with which you would agree not to use them after? And 9 o'clock, is that, or 10?
Yeah, we would prefer it to be able to go to 11 o'clock, but they came to an agreement already at 9 o'clock.
Okay, so, Peter, can you speak to some of this, some of the discussions that your department has had with National Grid?
The real complaints start coming in when we were working up at the intersection of Winchester and Beacon. There's kind of like a big bowl, and the sun just bounces off one wall to the other. So to the extent that we can get out of that location as soon as possible, I think that will soften the blow a little bit if we can get back down towards intersection Harvard and Beacon Street. I talked to my permit inspector to get a feel for what's left in the work at Winchester and Beacon. And I haven't touched base with Don or Nick, but, my permit inspector feels that there's another 2 nights worth of work.
2 nights?
Yeah. Now, I should really check with these guys over here to see if that's in the ballpark. Because I think once we get out of there, that's gonna take the curse
You
off.
mean 2
the
nights
news.
at Winchester and Beacon? 2 more nights at Winchester and Beacon?
Yeah,
I see
and
that.
is that about,
You can speak to that. These are the maps here. The highlighted section is a section that has been put into the ground. Has not been energized, but has been put into the ground. The remaining section that is not highlighted is what's left to do. That doesn't mean we don't have to go back there. We do have to go back to the Winchester area to do the connection to the existing pipe. Those 2 pages there.
Presumably you won't have to jackhammer.
Presumably, we will not have to jackhammer because we've already been doing a lot of the construction in that area. We have to do our connections. And we're hoping that some of the work can get done during the daytime where maybe because we're just in one small area versus having the whole street, that we could go back there with the crew and be able to make the connection during the daytime, not have to do it at night. There will be some of the connections, as Nick can speak about, that will have to be done at night. But go ahead, Nick, sorry.
So it looks like you just have a small section left at Winchester where it says connect to 8-inch PL, right?
Right, so we're going to be tying into that 8-inch plastic. That might require, that could be a bit of a gray area whether it can be done at day or night, depending on how that could affect the traffic, but like we already have that tie-in connection location, saw cut, so we already have an idea of where we're going to be at, so all we would have to do when we go out there is just dig it and prepare it, in which we would just dig down to our existing plastic pipe, prepare it for the connection from our for our new 12-inch to tie in. The biggest hindrance that would probably be our first connection, and that we would utilize that to energize the pipe all the way back down to just shy of Pleasant Street. And in doing so, when you energize it, you have to purge the gas through the facility, but also to do so, make sure that there's no air pockets that are residual in the main, because that could affect getting sent back into our system. So with that physical connection might have to happen at night, just so that we can purge the entire main and make sure that there's no residual pockets left.
Is that allowed operation?
No, purge, no.
Right.
You can't, it's,
But you do have the equipment in the backup alarm.
you'll have, the truck's equipment and the crew, but as far as the physical purging in and of itself, you can't hear it.
So the loudest equipment, if you would agree not to use the loudest equipment after 9 o'clock, how late would you be working until? Through the entire night, or till midnight, or?
It would kind of be, I would say that dependent on the scope of what we're anticipating, but I mean, as far as installing the remainder of the pipe, the crew is typically out there till about 3 or 4 in the morning. Sometimes 2 o'clock, sometimes 4:30. It kind of all depends on
what they can get done without using that equipment. So sometimes they can get more done without using the equipment, and then sometimes they have to, maybe they have to break open some more areas before they can continue, and then they're kind of stuck where they can't continue the process.
Right.
So, I know it seems like we've been out there forever, but starting at the end of March, we've really only had April and May. There's been some bad rain weather that we've had.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. We've had a couple of small little, wrap it up because of the marathon was coming through, and, certain weekends and stuff like that. So, and then with the time restriction, sometimes we might have to get done at 2 o'clock because we can't do much more. Sometimes we could work till, 3, 4 in the morning. So the man hours itself haven't been as much as you would think, and that's why we were hoping to come in here and say, okay, let's go for August 1st. But Nick and I discussed this again, and, with not having another week's worth of work, we don't want to be back here again August 1st asking.
Well, it sounds like to me there's sort of some, excuse me,
Gesundheit.
competing interests here. One is the interest in getting this new piping in so that we don't have old pipe that leaks. Gas leaks are the worst. Peter knows how I feel about those. And, they're bad for the environment, and they're bad for people, and there's a safety issue with them. So we certainly have an interest in having you fix this pipe. On the other hand, people need to sleep, and so it does make it difficult. And I think maybe the compromise of having the machinery go only until 9 or 10 o'clock, at least so that we don't have jackhammers at 3 a.m., is important.
And I did, when I met with you back in February, I did indicate that, most parts, the people working are not going to, run a jackhammer at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I think they knew at like 11 o'clock.
Why don't you go to the mic?
So when we met back in February at the meeting, I did indicate to the board that, jackhammering, the crew is an experienced crew. They're not going to be out there running a jackhammer at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I think that, when they were getting into the 10, 11, 12 o'clock hour, it was almost as though just they want to get it done. And they were like, oh, maybe just a little bit more, maybe just a little bit more. So that's been, nipped, and I think we got that under control. And they know that they won't be working out there if they do it again, so.
Maybe you could avoid the backup alarms by going around the block, going forward instead of backwards.
That's almost impossible, so. That'd be like trying to drive your car around the neighborhood without going in reverse all the time. It's tough, so that's the major part of the back and forth. So.
This is a public hearing? Do we see any members of the public wishing?
Yeah, there was one resident here, and she did mention about the backup alarms to us, and again, I did get a phone call today, and he wanted to...
Right, and we've received 2 emails, and I'm actually surprised that there isn't more folks here, because given the level of complaints that the work has generated. Mr. Ditto...
Can I ask one question?
Yeah, sure.
One of the emails that Selectman Wyszynski mentioned talks about a little annoyance that you're causing that probably could be taken care of to eliminate a lot of concerns. Blocking the driveway into a garage at a building and a fire hydrant. I don't know what that refers to, but it's those types of little irritants that maybe you should spend some time focusing on, so that people don't use that as a reason to complain to the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah, I think the first night back out there, if it's approved, then we could do a check and balance with the crew and the crew members and the supervisors. I think that's more than acceptable, that we make sure that they take care of everything,
So, Mr. Ditto, what discussions have you had with National Grid that will inform us in crafting this noise waiver with appropriate conditions?
Well, I think the biggest change is holding their feet to the fire as far as with the equipment needed to, saw or jackhammer the pavement. To the extent they can start, I'm even willing to let them start at 5 o'clock, right after the peak hour traffic, if that helps, is, doing the saw cutting there, and then they can start their regular work at, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and have that work already in place. I don't know if that makes sense or not. To me, it does, but we never offered that up.
So what you would be offering up is the ability to start a little earlier.
Right.
And we'll see how it affects traffic.
Is that incoming or outgoing side?
Outbound.
Outbound?
Pretty bad
That's
traffic
bad
jam.
traffic there,
Yeah.
Around that
I go that way some, and I know that
Yep.
I always shudder when I have to do it at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, the other thing is, I don't know if it makes more sense if they need to throw more crews at this job, or would they bumping into each other if they did that? So I know you have, one crew out there now?
Yes.
I don't know if it makes sense to throw another one on top, or it's just too of a confined area to have 2 crews working in one spot.
What about a 6 in the morning to 9 in the morning crew? Would that help?
I would imagine that'd be hard to mobilize for that short time and make it worthwhile.
And that's also when a lot of the businesses get their deliveries, so you're going to...
So, with this also being said, sorry, Peter. Yep. Just also keep in mind, some of the work, when we get to doing the transfer of the services, I believe there's only 15 services we have on count that actually have to be transferred. I'm not exactly sure on that number, but I think it's right around 15. Those might have to be done at, like, say, 4 in the morning, depending on, let's say, a restaurant wants to open up, and then we have to transfer their gas over, and we need to make sure their kitchen is running, or whatever it might be. And some of them might ask, hey, can you come in at 2 o'clock in the morning and do it, because we're closing and I have staff here. So we really have to accommodate the business owners for those transfers. So I think we're all aware of that situation, just so that's also something that will have to be done towards, the next probably month.
So,
I'm wondering about the request to go till September 1st.
yeah.
That seems like a long, a long window.
Yeah, so September 1st, we might not believe it, but we're almost, you got June, by the time we start back up, we'll be back out there next week.
Yeah,
July-
my inclination is
You have another 2 months, 2.5 months worth of work.
Yeah, my inclination is to have it a little shorter, which would have you guys back, and if people are yelling at us, we can yell at you.
So
All right.
let me,
Fair enough.
let me talk against myself here. We just adopted a summer schedule that hasn't.
Right, that's what I was
Yeah,
reaching
so-
for, to come up with the appropriate date.
And the other thing is, would breaking it up like that slow down the work?
It does, like right now, we're in the process because we haven't been able to work in a week.
Well, on the one hand, the summer, people's windows are open, but on the other hand, people are on vacation.
On the other hand, people put their air conditioner on,
Oh, that's true.
and that muffles the sound as well, so.
So-
It's gonna be,
Yeah.
you board can,
Yeah, we have
decide.
meetings on the 25th and August 8th, 25th of July and August 8th. So we can have the permit go through July 25th or August 8th, and then there'd be no interruption, but
But what, you say that that's going to slow you down. How does that slow you down?
Sorry, sir.
You said that to break it up in that way would slow you down.
Because if we overlap into that period and we have to stop the work, depending on when you give us the hearing and when, depending on
well,
when you.
what
give
I
us-
would suggest is we have the permit end, say, the day after when we have a scheduled
Yep.
meeting, so we can plan, we can
If you look
plan
at-
on
yeah.
having the
If
hearing.
you are looking at that, then I would hope they would give us the August 8th date. And with also keeping in mind, you got to keep in mind weather, and you got to keep in mind holidays.
Right.
And you got to keep in mind, we're not working on weekends. We don't
Right.
work Friday night, we don't work Saturday night out there. You got the 4th of July coming. You're really giving us almost 2.5 months
Right.
to work.
So I would propose August 9th, which would make sure that you don't have a break. So we would have a hearing on the 8th, so there'd be no,
I guess I'd like to know what the purpose of breaking it up like that is.
it's just,
We want- I mean, this is an incredibly important job, and we want to get it done as soon as possible.
right, and that's why I'm trying to structure this such that there'd be no break in the job, but give the affected neighbors the opportunity to voice concerns to us, and if there are no concerns, then it's becomes a pro forma hearing, or if there are concerns, people can voice them. It also, perhaps the crews might be a little better behaved if they know they have an August 8th date with us.
Could we also possibly look at the, maybe putting the formality to the side, maybe look at this, at the last week in July and say, okay, hey, listen, things have been going good, we haven't had any complaints, and get an extension without having to go in front of the board?
And then it's our option to.
And we can keep the August 8th date for a meeting.
Okay, that
And I
works.
think we'll, if we could have a internal meeting, perhaps at
Yeah,
the end of July, and so that we could
Yeah.
inform the board.
Yeah, I'm available whenever you need me.
And we'll
Okay, that-
monitor the tweets and
that works.
everything else during
Okay.
that.
Okay, so that.
And I myself am on Twitter as well, so if
Then
you
you can
ever...
teach me what to do.
Well, I don't know, I'm still learning myself. But if somebody did ever have a question, they could always go to, I don't even know what my Twitter handle is, but, if you look under
That's
John,
not helpful.
if you look under John Bacchus, you'll find it, So you could definitely, always just, tweet my name and I'll pop up and I can take
So,
responsibility.
crafting a motion So, okay, now I'm going to be thinking out loud. So let's see how this goes. I'll move that we grant a noise bylaw waiver with the following conditions. No jackhammering or, what's that other piece of?
Saw cutting?
Saw cutting after 9?
We did, what we had in place now is the jackhammer at 9 and the saw cutting 10.
Okay.
That sounds reasonable.
Okay, so no jackhammering after 9 p.m. or saw cutting after
10 p.m.?
10 p.m. With a, how should we craft this August 8th thing? At the board's option.
For an extension?
So it would be through August 8th with an option to extend.
Through August 9th.
Through August 9th with an option to extend without a public hearing through September 1.
With the understanding that there'll be an internal conversation in late July about the project and the need for an extension.
Okay, and the need for a public hearing.
Correct, yeah. And just with that internal meeting, just make sure you give me enough notice so that I can send out the abutter notifications and the legal notice again.
So, well, that would be for a public hearing.
Yeah, if needed,
Right.
you know, so just make sure that I have enough time.
Okay. So, you have that, Kate? Okay. Okay, so all those in favor of the motion, which generally is no jackhammering after 9, no saw cutting after 10, it's through August 9th with an option to extend it administratively to September 1 with an internal meeting and a possible public hearing at our option on August 8th. All those in favor, and then I hope that appears in the minutes a little
I need a
more.
flow chart to understand that motion.
All those in favor, please say aye. Selectman Franco.
Aye.
Selectman Heller.
Aye.
Selectman Green.
Aye.
And chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you again.
And I think that concludes our business for tonight.